measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at it.
You are now listening to the Outsiders Podcast, the most exciting and hard-hitting show on the net. And now, bringing it hard as always, here are your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger.
All right, welcome to the Outsiders Podcast. Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger coming at you. We are talking Bud Light Braggin rights game, St. Louis, Missouri on Saturday. Mizzou and Illinois. To me, Noah, this marks the start of the college basketball season. We've got two fan bases split right down the middle, 11,500 each. Half of them wearing black and gold, half of them wearing orange and blue.
Oh, God, Brandon Paul, watch out. Me being a Gonzaga fan, we already lost to Illinois. Brandon Paul had about 35 points, chucking threes all over the place. They all go in, of course, so you need to watch out.
Well, we got this is a big game. This is Mizzou coming into the game ranked number 12 against number 10 Illinois, who's undefeated at 12-0. Noah, you talked about it. You're a Gonzaga guy. Your Gonzaga Bulldogs took on Illinois earlier in the year, and this is definitely Illinois' best victory to date. Is that win over Gonzaga? You saw the game. You know, how was it able to occur? You talked about Brandon Paul hitting threes. I feel like Illinois is a three-point shooting team that if they're hitting, they're winning.
Yes.
If they're not, they're out. I don't know. They're 12-0, so obviously
but they haven't hit them. I mean, in some games, but they've been playing such losers, some really low-ranked schools, and so if they're hitting those, they are going to crush whoever they face. If they're not hitting them and they're playing a good team like Missouri, then you guys should win easy.
Well, you know, this is interesting because Illinois coming into the season I thought would not be a factor. Groce comes in to Illinois, immediately gets them playing well. Reminds me a lot of Missouri last year because a new coach comes in and ignites a veteran group as Frank Haith did to Missouri last year. Not a very deep, not a very big, not a very physical team, just like Missouri a year ago. And now Missouri is the bigger, deeper, more physical team. But not as good as a three-point shooting team as they were last year without, Marcus Denman, of course, without Kim English. But Missouri gets Jabari Brown eligible. He has played one game, and he's the five-star transfer from Oakland, California. Played for just a couple games at Oregon, has transferred in. So, without Michael Dixon, that's going to have to be Missouri's. He's going to be Missouri's best shooter, I think. And we're going to ask Jarrett Sutton about that because ex-Mizzou guard Jarrett Sutton is coming up talking about this game, and he's played in 4 of them himself and won 3 of them. So this is a big game. I mean, a lot of people plan their holidays, around this game. It's always a couple days right before Christmas and in the St. Louis area, and it's a big one. I mean, it's a streaky series. Illinois at one point won 9 straight, unbelievably, and Missouri has won the last 3. So it's going to be really interesting to see the outcome of this. And you talked about them, Illinois and how they looked against Gonzaga. I mean, Brandon Paul. Clearly, this is their best player. I think Tyler Griffey. This is a veteran group. Tyler Griffey brings a lot. Berardini. They have some good talent, but in the Gonzaga game you saw, Brandon Paul was just on fire. I mean, what did he have?
35, I believe. I mean, Gonzaga's had trouble in the past guarding the three-point line, and boy, it really showed up and bit us in the backside against Illinois. Griffey was hitting threes over Kelly Olynyk, our center. He had a hand in the face, and Griffey just taking 2 steps back from the three-point line, just draining them. Brandon Paul tried to do a pump fake and then lean in for a foul. The foul was not called. He's leaning in kind of like a swan shot, and it still goes in.
Wow. After
he didn't get the foul call, I mean, they're 2-3 steps back from the three-point line, and they're just draining all of them. It's ridiculous.
I'm having trouble figuring this Illinois team out because they did get that win over Gonzaga, which I didn't expect. But they beat Gardner-Webb by a 3 of all things at the buzzer, I believe, from Tyler Griffey. They've beaten some teams by very close margins, some not so good competition. But if you look at Missouri, they go back. Their big wins so far have been over a team like Stanford out in the Battle for Atlantis tournament, and then of course over VCU, who's a very good team, but got blown out by Louisville, who's a juggernaut, a very good team. So with regards to Missouri, this is a team I think that's is struggling offensively. Lawrence Bowers right now is definitely the team's best player. Phil Pressey has struggled a little bit early in the season, I think. without Michael Dixon, and of course Michael Dixon is now transferred on, but Phil Pressey, I think, took a lot of the burden on himself. He was forcing a lot of shots and turning the ball over, and hopefully with a guy like Jabari Brown now in there that can be that swing guard is going to help out Phil Pressey and the rest of that team. But, you got freshmen at Mizzou like Stefan Yankovic starting to step up, Tony Criswell, and, love what you're starting to see out of Keon Bell and Ernest Ross, two transfers, very highly touted transfers that had kind of struggled to find their role. No, I mean, Keon Bell, a guy from Pepperdine, a conference year and a team you're very familiar with. He's a high flyer. He's starting to find his role. Ernest Ross, transfer from Auburn, starting to kind of find his way as well. The scoring is going to have to come from somewhere, and I think it's going to be Jabari Brown. And if you're working the high-low between Pressey, Alex Oriaki, and certainly Lawrence Bowers, who's been added a lot of elements to his game. I'll tell you what, the knee injury he had last year, he's come back a better player somehow this year. So we're going to go ahead and go to Jarrett Sutton on this topic and see what he thinks about this Bud Light bragging rights game here in St. Louis. And we are talking Mizzou and Illinois Bud Light bragging rights game this Saturday here at 5 o'clock with our very special guest, ex-Mizzou guard Jarrett Sutton. Jarrett, you played enough of these games yourself and were on hand for those. You won your final 3 as a Missouri Tiger. Just go into the atmosphere, the fan support, what it's like playing in a game like this in St. Louis where the crowd is just split 50-50.
Yeah, so this is my favorite game of the year. It's kind of the game I think everybody circles on their schedules. I think players do it, I think coaches do it, I think fans do it. But we'll talk about a great atmosphere. I think it's one of the best non-conference games in college basketball. I think it's every year, especially it being two teams that are highly ranked this year, and especially Illinois undefeated and Mizzou with 1 loss. What a matchup! But my first 3 years, I can remember walking out the tunnel my freshman year back when Damari and Leo, and that was when we were on the losing streak. And just walking out there an hour and a half before the game is shooting around, and it's just packed and it's loud, and they got the MIT chant going, and Illinois is firing back. And I mean, it's an hour and a half before tip-off, so a great atmosphere. It's great for college basketball, and it's around the holidays, and I think there's just so much excitement around the game, and the fans come back, and they want to cheer on their alma mater, and especially with 2 great programs this year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you talked about Kim English, a guy that also agreed that this was his favorite game playing as a Missouri Tiger. He talked about how your guys' freshman year losing that game and how he was not even able to enjoy Christmas break. He said he laid around like sick and just couldn't handle it. So what did it feel like your final 3 years to break that? Because Illinois had won 9 straight at one point in the series until you guys won the last 3. What was it like these past 3 years being able to go in there and then come out on top? And they were all very close, very good games.
Yeah, great games. I agree with Kenny. I remember that feeling after the first year and then a heartbreaking loss, and especially for a great team as we had that freshman year, and we went all the way into the Elite Eight. But I think we look back on that year and go, man, that Illinois game, it was right there for us too. But I think that our sophomore year, once we got that win, Christmas break was just what a Christmas gift we had. I mean, it was so exciting, and I can remember, Brady Deaton and Mike Alden coming into the locker room and congratulating us. And, obviously we wanted to end that streak. We were sick of hearing about it. We were sick of, being asked that question of 9 straight losing years. And so that second year stands out. But then, my junior year and my senior year, 2 great games. And last year, we built a comfortable lead. And I remember thinking, man, this is kind of nice if we could just cruise. But these games aren't like that. I mean, it's 40 minutes. It doesn't matter the lead, I feel like. I think both teams always find a way to make it interesting at the end. And luckily we were able to pull it out last year. I know, I remember Phil hitting a big 3 late in the game. And you just remember certain plays that stand out in every game. There's always going to be 2 or 3 plays that you look back on the next morning and go, man, that was a huge play. And these are huge games, big games. But again, if we can find a way to win this one, what a lift it would be going into the holiday break.
Yeah, as we talk about this year's team, Missouri comes in here with just the 1 loss. We talked early in the season previewing the Missouri Tigers, and just kind of want to get into that. What your thoughts are on the team right now. We of course saw Jabari Brown become eligible just a week ago, and kind of talk about him and what kind of what kind of a lift he's going to be to this team offensively, because I feel like the team's been a very good rebounding team, but has struggled to find their shot. And we talked about Phil Pressey, preseason SEC Player of the Year, a guy that maybe has forced things a little bit. And I just wanted to see if you kind of agree with that.
Yeah, so, my first thing, I think Coach Hayes hit it best, and when he talks about Jabari and tells him, just to be Jabari, don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to be Mike, don't try to be Timmy, don't try to be Marcus. He's a freshman. Just play within yourself. Play your game. And that's what Jabari's great at. I hope he just doesn't put any added pressure on him. I don't want him to feel like he has to come in and be Mike Dixon, because we don't need him to be Mike Dixon. We need him to be Jabari Brown. And I think watching him the other night, I think that game was great for him. I'm so glad he had got a game under his belt before this Illinois game. Because another thing, these guys that are going to play tomorrow, it's going to be an interesting sight the first couple minutes. They're going to have to adjust to this atmosphere. It's not like most college basketball games. It's very intense. It's exciting. So they're going to have to get the juices flowing early. But I think Jabari is a huge addition. He's a great outside shooter, and we need somebody that can knock it down. We lead the nation in rebounding. I think this team is a lot different than last year's team. The fact that we can score inside and we can score at will inside. But we need somebody that can step up and knock down outside shots. I think Jabari gives us a great weapon. I think Ernest and Keon and Phil and Negus, I think all those guys can shoot it well. But we needed another body, and so I'm glad Jabari is back. And again, I just think he's going to bring a lot to the table. And then as far as Phil goes, I do think he was forcing a little bit of the envelope, but I think that has a lot to do with he's the point guard, and he runs the show. And I think he was expecting to have Mike with him, and I think that would have taken a lot of pressure off Phil, because I think Phil is a pass first point guard, and I think that's when he's at his best, is when he's distributing and not forcing and not trying to score every possession. So I think adding Jabari kind of takes a little bit of pressure off him, which I think is good. And when you talk about Player of the Year, I think you got to put Lawrence Bowers in that conversation. How great has he been all year? Just being able to step out and knock down a three-point shot is huge for his game, because he's great inside. He's got great hands, great ball skills. But if he can step out and shoot it, that is an added weapon for us. But I think right now, when you talk about SEC Player of the Year, I would totally put Lawrence in that category. I think he's done a great job. I think he's led. And I couldn't be happier for the guy with what he's gone through. Goes over the 1,000-point mark the other night. We were waiting for that to happen. That makes 3 guys out of my class to go over that 1,000-point mark. So, you got to put Lawrence in that category with Player of the Year talk.
Can you put into words how big of a loss Michael Dixon is for this Tigers team? And do expectations need to change this season now that he's gone?
That's a great question. As myself included, it would have been great to have Mike back. He was, coming into his senior year, he's a second-team preseason All-American. It hurts losing him, absolutely. But, you can't just define your season this early, and I think some Mizzou fans are, already kind of cashing it in, like, we lost Mike, and, the season's gone to waste. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think we have so many talented guys, and I think this gives, guys like Negus and Jabari and Keon and Ernest a chance to play more minutes and a chance to step up and kind of, see who can fill that role. And again, nobody's gonna be Mike Dixon. We need guys to just play within themselves, play their role, and we have a great coach that I know will make the necessary adjustments. I think you got to have Phil continue to just be the point guard, and I think knowing that he probably pushed the envelope a little bit at the beginning of the year, I think adding Jabari is a huge addition, because it just gives us another body. I think expectations for the year, I'm anxious to see I don't think you can make expectations right now. I think tomorrow's we're going to learn a lot, because Illinois is a great team, and they have great guard play. So I'm we have our team, we have our guys that we're going to play night in and night out, and it'll be a great matchup tomorrow to see where we kind of fit in.
You mentioned the Illinois great guard play. I believe that starts and ends with Brandon Paul, who is a just outstanding, sensational player for Illinois. What does Missouri need to do defensively to contain him?
Yeah, I think the key is keeping him in front. He's very good at getting to the basket, and he makes everybody better. He kind of reminds him and Phil are different players, but he reminds me of Phil in the fact that he makes the four guys around him better, and that's when you have a special player. Yeah, I think he's already in the National Player of the Year talks, which he should be, because he's had a great start and he's led them. And I knew even after he finished last year, the games that he was putting together at the end of last year, I think he had a 34, 35-point game last year, and you could see he was a stud. And this year he's come in full force. I know he's worked hard in the off season, and he's added to his game. He can shoot the ball. He can do it all. But the key with him is to be physical with him and keep him in front, and not try to go for steals, not try to get out of defensive position and put fouls on our bigs. We cannot do that. So the key, I think, for us to manage the game defensively is just to keep him in front, know where he's at all times. Transition defense, you got to find him. He's the first guy you got to find. And I know that our guys will be ready for that. I think it'll be an interesting matchup of who might guard him. I can see Negus, I can see Ernest, I can even see Phil at times. So it'll be an interesting matchup. But again, just keeping him in front and trying to make him one-dimensional, I think, is the key.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the freshmen that are making immediate impacts here at Missouri. We were talking about Stefan Yankovic. You've already brought up Negus Webster-Chan, and of course Tony Criswell. I mean, give us your thoughts on these guys. And I think, to me, Stefan is contributing at a really high level right now. And I think to have a big guy like that can dribble and can get out and make a 15-footer, I mean, how big is that for a team like Missouri right now?
Absolutely, it's huge. I mean, I was watching the game last night when I think he had a steal. He's in the front court and he made a spin move between the leg and an and one, and I'm going, this guy's 6'11", and that's a guard type of move. And like you said, he can shoot it so well. He had a play the other night where he caught the ball in the wing and it was two dribbles to the baseline, pull-up jumper, and that's tough. That is tough. That's a Dirk Nowitzki type shot. He's a big guy, and I'm sitting here asking people around me, this guy's a freshman? I mean, you kind of have to take it in and go, this guy still has three more years here at Mizzou, so he's a stud. I mean, and I kind of liked how Coach started him in our last game, just to see what our lineup would be like if we could play big, and he can play the three. I mean, he can shoot it. And like you said, he's got great ball skills for a guy of his size. So that's such a huge addition. And then, going down the line, this freshman class is great. Like you said, Tony Criswell has shown, throughout these games, that he can shoot the ball. He can shoot that free throw line elbow jumper all day. And if teams are going to give him that, that's a great asset for us to have him be in the game. But I think what you see with Tony Criswell in the games that I've seen is he gives us so many extra possessions. I mean, he's in there getting offensive rebounds, and you always see him scrapping underneath the basket, getting rebounds. That is huge, especially for a guy like him that, is coming in for Lawrence and Alex and guys that are going to play a bulk of minutes. It's great to have him come off the bench and give us those minutes and give us those extra possessions. I think it's great, and I love his energy. And that's been a great addition for us. And you go down, and again, I've been so impressed with Negus Webster-Chan. I was impressed with him when he came in on his recruiting visit because he's so smooth. He doesn't show much emotion. He scores, he gets back on defense, he plays fast, he can shoot it, he can handle the ball, he can do so many things, and he's a big guard. So again, another great addition with there, and I'll be honest, I've been impressed with Rosberg too. I think he's given us big minutes, and another guy that kind of comes in and plays his role, kind of like what Steve did. He comes in, he's trying to take charges, he's trying to tip balls, he's trying to get rebounds, and making himself aware under the basket for penetration and see if he can get a stick back. And those are great when guys know their roles and play them well. And so this freshman class has been so impressive. And again, I kind of think of my own class when we were freshmen, because we had so many guys that came in and played great roles. and they knew that they couldn't be the star or the guy that puts in 20 points. They didn't have that mindset. They came in and said, how can we help? How can we make additions to this team and improve this team? And they've done a great job.
Well, of course, I got to ask you about a guy that I think is going to be very key in this game against Illinois, because to me, Illinois, one way Missouri can exploit this team is by going inside. And I think Alex Oriaki is a guy right now who's starting to maybe find himself offensively, and I'll see if you agree with that. But to me, he's a guy that kind of struggled to find himself early offensively. This is a great rebounder. He's been a good defender all year. But all of a sudden, he's catching the ball and he's going up over two guys and rocking the rim. Now, that's against more, sub-caliber competition. But how big is he going into this game? Because I really think that's an area Missouri can exploit Illinois by going inside, running the offense through Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see Illinois throwing defenses at us tomorrow and try to take away Alex and try to take away Lawrence. Because, like you said, I think Alex is coming into his own. Again, he's such a force down there. I mean, he's so strong, and he can jump, he can get up. And the thing I think that's most impressive is, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen a Mizzou guy that can do this, is, we shoot a three-pointer and hits off the front of the rim, and Alex is going up and in midair catching it and dunking it. Yeah. I'm going, that's off a three-point shot. I mean, that's impressive. And we haven't had a guy with that type of power that can do stuff like that. And so he is such a weapon. And like you said, he had some great games at the beginning of the year. But it was, you knew that there was going to be some time where he was going to have to kind of come in and really grasp the offense and try to just kind of get his role, kind of get the feel of what we were doing offensively. And he's done a great job. Like, I see them running more sets to him, which is great. But again, just to have a guy around the basket that can get up and rebound, and he's a big part of why we're the best rebounding team in the country. And he will play a huge role tomorrow. So I'm anxious to see how, I think if Illinois scouts us the way they should, I can see them trying to take away our inside game and our bigs as much as possible. But if we can get Alex going and he can get in there and get some muscle rebounds and putbacks and three-point boys, I think that'll give our team a lot of energy. And again, talking about extra possessions, he's another guy that can give us, so many more possessions with his activity around the basket. So he has been a great addition, and I agree with you. I think he's coming into his own, and I think you can only see what's to come from him. I think his ceiling is still increasing. And another thing I love about him is he's shooting, from the line really well, and he's a great free throw shooter. And big guys, sometimes struggle from the line, and he's been very consistent, which you need in a big guy, because he's probably got to go to the line more than your guards are. So again, impressed with him, and I think he's a force, one of the more forceful guys we've had at Mizzou in a long time.
Well, Jarrett, I tell you what, before we let you go, before we let you get your holiday festivities kicked off, and at least the outcome of this game won't necessarily define your holiday success, hopefully this year, but as it did when you were a player. But got to get your prediction on the game. Give us a prediction and give us a score.
I got Mizzou 78-71. I'm going to go 78-71. I think we play well. I think we play well in the second half. I think first half we might be down at the half, but I can see us making some big plays down the stretch. I look for Phil, Lawrence, and Alex to have big days for us. And I think Coach Hates is going to bring our guys ready to play in big games. And I just would like to see us defend well. And I can see us pulling this one out.
Hopefully so, Jarrett. I'll tell you what, we're going to be watching, buddy, and cannot thank you enough for joining us. We'll catch up again. I'll tell you what, your insight is incredible, and I hope you have just the greatest of holiday seasons, and stay happy, stay safe, and we'll catch up to you as the SEC season starts, and can't wait to do so, my man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Jarrett.
All right. Bye.
Great stuff, as always, from Jarrett Sutton. He is our go-to when it comes to Missouri basketball. The guy just knows his stuff. And, Jarrett, he knows this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be obviously the toughest test, I think, for each team going into conference season. And my goodness, this is a big one. I think both fan bases are pumped for this. And he talked about his experiences playing in the game in St. Louis. My goodness, I think you're going to have a war out there. And as far as predictions go, I've been adamant over the last 15 years. When it comes to this game, I am excited for it every year. I pick Illinois every year, and I'm going to tell you why. They won 9 straight of these games dating back to the Quinn Snyder era. It's been a streaky series. Illinois, with those 9 straight wins, I just, going into each game, did not believe Missouri could win the game. Now that Missouri's won 3 straight, I think that there's been a little more balance added. I still think right now Illinois is playing a little bit better basketball, but we'll see. Missouri may be ready to bust out with Jabari Brown. We're going to see. I mean, you saw Illinois. You've seen them yourself. You've seen Missouri. What is your prediction going into this?
I mean, it's all going to come down to that 3-point line. Can the Missouri guards cover that 3-point line like it's their only job? Like, it's going to come down to that. If they don't do that, they will lose this game. I think Brandon Paul can take over a game. I'm not sure Missouri has an answer for Brandon Paul. I'm not sure many teams in the entire nation have an answer for Brandon Paul in the way he is playing this year. I know Gonzaga didn't. They've got Gary Bell Jr. He's a great defensive guard, and Brandon Paul torched his you-know-what. Brandon Paul, you have got to stop Brandon Paul. If you do that, you can win. If not, you lose. I'm not sure they can. I'm going with Illinois.
Yeah, I think it's going to be – the thing about this is we talk about Illinois' strength versus the weakness of Missouri. And Missouri has struggled to guard the perimeter this year in a game against SEMO, which they trailed at halftime. They just could not guard the perimeter. But, Illinois' weakness is they have nothing inside. I mean, Missouri should be able to beat them up inside. Alex Oriaki, Lawrence Bowers. I mean, those guys are going to have their way rebounding.
Well, going there, Gonzaga, I mean, Illinois fights hard for the boards. They might not be big, but they are scrappy and they fight hard. We've got Kelly Olynyk, Elias Harris, one of the best players in the nation.
7-footers.
Yes, and Shemet Karnowski, who's like 7'3", and they got a lot of offensive rebound second opportunities. You're crashing the boards. They get the board. They kick it out for an open 3, and it is a nightmare.
I'm already scared. I'm already picturing Paul just wide open behind three-point lines.
And even if you're up, I mean, Gonzaga was up, I believe, 11 or 13 points in the second half, and they just come charging back and they crush us. It was devastating. I mean, those threes are killer. I think they should outlaw the three-point line because Gonzaga can't guard it, and I want them to be able to win.
Sure.
And if you run into a three-point shooting team, it's devastating like Illinois, so watch out.
Well, with this being, I mean, Missouri-Illinois, I think one of the great and one of the underrated rivalries in college basketball, because these are perennially two teams that are usually one of them ranks, a lot of times both. And without Kansas on the schedule for Missouri, Missouri looks to a game like this as a big rivalry game. Especially, it's very rare in college basketball that you go into an arena, a 23,000-seat arena, in which literally, 11,000 people on each side. I mean, it's split right down the middle. It's very rare you get into an atmosphere like this, and I think that's an underrated part about this game. And I mean, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be just a raucous environment. Both teams look to be, Final Four contenders this year, and so we're gonna see how it plays out. Again, I'm always skeptical about this game. I love it, but Illinois right now, the way they're playing, I just it's going to be really tough for Missouri. But again, Illinois finds themselves in a cold shooting game, and they're going to be in trouble. And Missouri finds their way behind the line. It can at least keep pace with Illinois shooting the basketball. I think we'll make it a close game. This is typically a close game. These games are always wars down to the wire, and I think you're going to be looking at that again. And going forward, I think Missouri's going to have an easier time in the SEC. I mean, the SEC is going to have Kentucky, Florida, and I think Missouri. Those are your top 3 schools right now. I mean, other than that, the SEC is just not looking very good. And
Kentucky's reeling a little bit out of the top 25.
I know. I think that they're going to get better. I think it's going to be a 3-team race. I think Florida's probably the cream of the crop right now. I think Missouri could factor in. But, I mean, Illinois in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is far and away the best league in America this year.
What about the WCC with Gonzaga? Just kidding.
Well, that's a very good. It's always a very good league, and they produce a couple tournament teams. though, when you're talking about Ohio State, Michigan State, Illinois, all of a sudden, Indiana, who was number 1 until a week or two ago. This is the Big Ten is definitely the best league. I'm probably leaving Michigan. My God, Michigan's in the second-rate team of the nation, and here I was about to forget about them and the way they're playing. I mean, Michigan.
Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yep. I really like them. I really like this league. Of course, so we're gonna see. I think Illinois plays in the tougher league, but either team has played a league game. Either team is battle tested in their own leagues right now. So all we have to go on are games against loser opponents, and then
the one win against my team, unfortunately, Gonzaga.
The one win against Gonzaga for Illinois, and the one loss against Louisville for Missouri. So we're going to see how this thing plays out. Be sure to be tuned in on ESPN. It's going to be Mizzou and Illinois at 5 o'clock Central Time, so be sure to tune in for that. Have a very happy holidays, everybody. We will be catching up with you after the break. So enjoy the game, enjoy the weekend, and enjoy some sports.